Okay, hi everyone. We are Factchequeado. We'll be talking a bit today about Monitoreo, which is this tool that is powered by AI and we made to monitor mis and disinformation, especially targeted to Latin communities in the US. So just to give like a bit of context before we start, I pulled this quote from the Washington Post for the 2020 elections, talking about how the Latin community was inundated with misinformation and conspiracy theories, especially on political and health issues. We saw the same last year. Here's like a brief example of the things we saw target to Hispanic communities and Latin communities last year election. And with the next year's election coming down the road, we just know there's going to be more of it going around. So I think it's cool to start saying like, who are we? Factchequeado is an initiative that was born to grow and strengthen the Latin fact-checking community in the US. And our main goal is just to combat misinformation in Spanish. We have this help of this platform that we call Chequeabot, which is this tool that is helpful for us to automate part of the fact-checking process. And it's based basically on AI and open data. Well, the project is mainly led by two organizations. If you're familiar with the fact-checking international community, these are the big two Spanish-speaking fact-checking organizations, Chequeado and Maldita. But it also has a US team and has more than 45 allies. Here's a brief map with some of the logos, and you can see how scattered in the US it is. And the sizes of this media go from really small, 2 or 3 people like Enlace Latino in North Carolina or Connect Arizona, to the really big in like Univision in Florida, or the 2 big fact checkers like PolitiFact and Factcheck.org. We also have some institutional partners, and right now we're on 46 allies, but it's growing every month. And then it's the issue that we have to address, which is that on the process of trying to fight misinformation, we found that monitoring platforms are not tailored to misinformation in particular. They're really tailored to just general viral content. And definitely they're not suited to deal with Spanish and local communities. So they're always working on the big stuff, and especially in English. And that's how we came about with this idea for this tool, which is Monitoreo. It's a dashboard to monitor trending misinformation in multiple platforms at the same time. So far, we've connected to Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And we're also planning to add WhatsApp in the near future, which is super big on the Hispanic-speaking communities. And well, how does it fit with AI? Well, we use it to surface potentially harmful or viral misinformation. Just so in case anyone is interested, we're using Bird Topic and Hugging Face transformers. I will just maybe do like a brief example of how it works on a high level, just in case anyone wants to know. But we basically took a big data set of social media posts from specific accounts that we tracked throughout last year's elections, and a bunch of debunks that came along the way with that. And we use that to generate automatic topic clustering. So we group that on topics that seem relevant or not. And then we ranked those topics according to the amount of fact checks that were related to those topics, but also we take in a lot of feedback from the newsroom. I'll show you a bit, maybe an example of how that happens later, but just to give you a quick overview, these are some of the topics that came out. Sorry. You can see like vaccination, Ukraine and the war, the 2030 world agenda, UFOs, Trump and FBI, elections. So you can see the kind of stuff that's going around. And here, I know it's a bit complex on first sight, but we basically taking posts, automatically classifying some topic, generating a score for that, and we run that with also how viral they are on the moment. And with that, we try to rank them in a way that seems useful for our fact checkers. But I think like the key part here is that we're taking a lot of feedback into the loop. So the idea is that this works a bit like a recommendation system. The more you fact check some stuff, it will just try to get you more of that. And the things that you mark as not relevant will just go down. Because the real issue here is that there's so much going around in social media, and it's impossible to keep track of what's going to be harmful. Sorry, my screen froze for a bit. My bad. So here's just like a quick overview of how the tool looks like now. You can see like this main column, which you get everything from all the sources, and then you can filter out which you don't like. You can also just, with one click, just say what you want to fact check later. And all this gets grouped in the second screen, where you see like the progress of each topic and how you're doing and how's the team working on it. And this is also really good to work on collaborative workflows. So the idea that you can keep track of what someone else monitored and see what they're up to. So I think just in a brief summary, what do you think this tool provides to the small newsrooms that we're working at? And we're thinking about like maybe 2 or 3 people only with few hours and a lot to do. So the idea to get this tool where they can do this monitoring on a platform that's optimized for them and is trying to help them to get best results in short time, it seems really useful for them. The ability to focus on the critical tasks, on other critical tasks. And something that we see that came along the way as we were developing this is the idea that as you work along, you start to annotate the data, even if you don't want to. The fact that you're registering something and fact checking it just builds a huge database that is really useful and can be used as a revenue stream for those small organizations that usually have some budget problems. You know, I think we all know what small newsrooms go through, and the idea that by doing something that is easier for them and at the same time they can bring money into the table, it just seems like a good idea in general. So right now we are doing the first iteration of the product. It's being tested in our newsroom. And the next steps is basically to, once we fix all that seems wrong and make some improvements, we are gonna open it up to the allied newsrooms, like to everyone that wanna use it. And also, well, we are looking, as I said before, to integrate WhatsApp into the loop. And I think that's it. I'm happy to take we are happy to take any questions and comments. Thanks, everybody.
Great. Thank you, Joaquin. And let's open it up to questions.
I'll take a first stab this time. So
good.
So thank you. Honestly, we're all very worried about misinformation. And it's a really important problem. We need more minds thinking about how we solve this. Can you help me make sure I have this clear on how you kind of detect misinformation with this? So it's basically based off how many fact checks are written. Is that did I have that correct? Or can you clarify that for me a little bit more?
Yeah, no worries. So we're basically not saying what is misinformation or not. We're leaving that to the journalists at this point. We've definitely been trying to solve that kind of part of the deal, but this is more focused on what could be. And the critical thing here is that most of the time you don't know if it actually is until you fact check it. But what we're trying to think is platforms usually are ruled by how viral something is. This is the criteria they go for, right? So you're gonna see the trending thing on top. Even if it's like a football match, it doesn't really matter, and it's not really good at sorting out the stuff into proper categories. So our idea or our approach, like at first go, was we're gonna be really, and this is where the automated clustering of topics come about. This idea of we're gonna be super specific in terms of the topics that we're trying to search, and then so what you surface is there are certain things that are more viral and harmful. So if we're talking about like election misinformation or health issues, you're gonna try to focus on that more. And I think that's what we're looking for. Yeah,
I can jump in there. Hi everyone, thank you for being there. Part of the problem that we are addressing, and I think all of the people that were trying to serve better Latino communities in the US, is that we don't know much about them. They are really different. They're not just one community. Their conversations are separately in the country of origin, cities where they're living, and all the tools that we have now are not good enough. Then the problem that we are trying to solve, and it's not that we are going to solve it in this first version of the prototype, I mean, we know that, is that we need to research, have better data for our newsroom, but also for researchers, that we are all the time inviting them to research more about this topic. And as Joaquin said, we already did one research or preliminary research that show us that there are some topics, migration topics and procedures with the administration, electoral topics, and all related to different types of votes in different states, issues related to gender, LGBTQ community. There are issues that there are a lot of information in English, but not as much in Spanish, are crucial because the disinformers or bad actors have taken advantage of that gaps. That is not necessary information in Spanish. And in the US, and this is perhaps some contextual information, there are 41 million people that speak Spanish in their house. US is the fifth country all around in the world speaking Spanish in terms of quantity of people. Then we are using fact-checking tools, but basically what we are doing is filling gaps of quality journalist information. And this tool, we imagine, can help us to do that. And the workflow of the technique or the technology behind the monitor and the AI that gonna contribute, it is that we have allies already in 18 states that know their community, and they're gonna be putting information inside this tool that Joaquin and Sebas and the team are working on to improve it. And then we imagine we're gonna figure it out better, whose that networks are, and the back actors are, some of the narratives that when one success, they repeat it. And then this is also part of the experiment. I'm sorry, Matt, that I take so long.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. I just have one quick follow-up. The examples you gave were very national type issues. And you're saying this is meant for small or more local newsrooms. How are you getting at the signals from smaller communities? Or are you thinking about that it's, the larger conversation, there's little fact issues there?
The narratives that we saw during these 15 months is that you have the national narratives customized in the local level, but they are the same. They change perhaps the name of the candidate. They use some element that can be appealing in that town, but are not necessarily original. There are some patterns that are more or less the same, and they are not original from the US. They are the same patterns that we saw in Latin America and in Spain. There's a kind of root of this information in Spanish that one of the hypotheses is that WhatsApp play an important role there because Latinos in the States continue being in touch with their families outside. And then, yeah, that's at least our hypothesis today.
I like that you made sure to include a slide on what I think is one of the greatest promises of things like this and Bangla AI, and it's the ability for this kind of technology to go to an under-resourced newsroom and improve their capacity and allow them to be more efficient. And I think it's definitely an important problem that you're trying to solve. I'm gonna go now to like a really in the weeds question. Maybe it's not that in the weeds. I'm curious how recent platform decisions to limit or charge exorbitant fees to their APIs impact your vision. And also, how would you integrate this with WhatsApp, which is such a closed system?
Yeah, it was definitely a thing when we started this. Well, we've used techniques to bypass tools. So we mainly do as the idea we have is that we have certain accounts that we already follow, and we have like a brief glimpse into what are the most misinforming accounts. We don't have to scrape everything that's going on everywhere, so that's helpful. So we don't have to go. I know what you're talking about, and the rates really went up like prohibitively, especially for small newsrooms. But yeah, we are using other ways of trying to get that information, and actually it's proven successful. Sorry, Yellow.
No, and you can continue. Then I can explain need about WhatsApp and what we've been doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, so you can go for it.
Yeah. Then part of what we saw outside the States is that in general, WhatsApp is a kind of lab, a place where there is informers tests in a not open network what works and what make engage people or not. And then if we have the chance to receive from their audience in WhatsApp what they're saying, it's really good for us because we prepare an article in advance, and when it starts to go out in the open meta networks or TikTok, we already have almost ready the answer. And as you know, time is crucial for us. And then what we are doing is we have a WhatsApp chatbot, and we are trying to just spread the word, the voice about the number, and inviting all our partners to publish the number in all the articles they republish for free, inviting people to send us questions, queries, images they suspect about in the recent weeks or months, AI images that they are not sure if they are AI or not, etc. And we ask them to ask for credible content and to share in their own groups that content. And that allowed us to reach people that they are not necessarily consuming news. And then part of the technology problem is Joaquos and Sebas, but what we are doing is having a kind of super on the ground information with that people that start to be our community, and it's a one-to-one community. And the chatbot gives us the answer with the articles or the banks or explainers that we already have. And if we don't have the answer, our reporters receive a kind of alert. And if that alert is more than once, we create an article and we send them back. And then that's the way we create trust with that people. And then that people are kind of part of the engaged community trying to help us with this.
Yeah, I mean, I want to echo my fellow panelists, and just that this is really important work. And, seeing how this information goes at marginalized communities, especially, and that there is just not a lot of data specifically about the way this information is spreading across Latina communities in the US. I think this is important because you all, in addition to help combating that misinformation, you're also going to have a large data set of just what disinformation is spreading. And I know, you talked briefly about how there's kind of misinformation about stuff happening within the US, but also things happening back home. And so I'm just interested in kind of how your partners, or how you see your partners kind of who are based here and are mainly doing coverage of issues here, how they how you see kind of dealing with misinformation happening about country of origin, and how that fits into your approach.
And you want my sincere answer?
I would like your sincere answer.
That's the reason why we launched Factchequeado. We think we would, at least the way in the past you were fighting disinformation in Spanish were not efficient, because they were just translating to Spanish issues that in lots of the cases they were not their own conversations.
Yeah, it also has.
Then we should start from the beginning, and the beginning is listen first, and then answer what these people cares about.